So as we continue to talk about your Chapter 1 project, let's extend into how do you actually use Data Studio to make our project. So as you see this time, I actually did come in to where it said no name before. I actually put a name for the project. This is stored within the Data Studio. It's not actually in your Google Drive, so what you're going to see is this. If when you're on the Data Studio page, if you go into the internet browser and just go back, you're actually going to come to the Data Studio home. And you're going to notice here is the document that I created at this timestamp, and here's the name of it. So if you want to get into it again, just click right into it. And it's going to bring you back to where we were. Now, some of the things you can do, this is just a one-page template right here, kind of like a big poster we're making. If we wanted to add more pages to this later on, we could just click on here and add a second page. Maybe we can get this project done in one page, maybe we'll need 2 pages. We'll just see how it goes. So on the layout, my layout when I was on there, I did set it up as landscape because that's a better way for me to want to present my data. You may want to choose to do yours as the vertical. In terms of the theme, there's not a lot of themes to choose from. There's a simple theme, which is white in the background, or simple black. You can actually scroll down on here and you can change some of the background colors. You're going to notice for mine, I did choose to actually change my background color to kind of this lighter blue just to kind of mix it up and do something more fun. But just play around under the themes and under the layout to see if you want to change anything. For layout, I pretty much kept it like it was set up, but for themes, I played around a little bit with the colors. Now, if you want to put a title on here, I thought for me, I wanted to put a title, so I clicked right here at the text box, and if you drop and drag a text box right in here, you then are going to have the ability to type what you want. So go into the box, type in there. Within this text box, when you're in there, you can actually go in and you can find a place to change the coloring of the box behind there. You can change the font size. You can change the look of the font. So play around. You're going to find it over in the right-hand side. I don't believe these are the actual correct layouts for that box. To get the layout for the box, actually click on the box and this will change and be specific to the box. Right now, this sidebar is specific to just the layout of our entire document. Now, ultimately what I want you to have on here is I'm going to show you how to put tables of data in here, how to add filters into here, and how to do some graphs. Once we have that, we're going to have a great one-page analysis of our data and our tables, and then possibly we'll add a second page to do our writing of our statistical findings and results. So let's talk about adding a table. If you click up here to the table, click on that option and then drag a box down below, and you're going to see this right here. So at first it defaults and it's showing here an actual number for the row, which ultimately I'm going to get rid of. It shows the gender that I have and then the hours. Now initially it didn't have any hours, so when I drop the box you're going to go over here and it's going to say the dimension that I'm looking at. What ultimately I want you to have is I want a table by gender, a table by each grade, and a table by zip code. So we're going to have 3 different tables. And I'm envisioning I'm just going to line them up this way, but you can organize your page however you like. So the first one by gender, the dimension I'm looking at is gender. If there's nothing in here, just look at the fields that are available and drop and drag gender in there. Now metric means what numerical value do you want them to calculate in this table. If you look at these fields available, you're going to notice 3 of them say ABC, means they're text fields. That timestamp is a date. This hours is 1, 2, 3. That's the only numeric field. So what you can do is take the hours field and drop it here into the numeric, and then it's going to add it to the actual table as our metric of choice. Now that's the data. You can scroll down and see if you want to change any other options. Now the style I'm not so keen on. I'd again like to get rid of the row numbers and maybe this little counter here on the bottom telling me there's 2 fields. I can tell there's male and female. So I'm going to go over to style. Now this is what I came up with after I adjusted it. What I decided to do is I did want the header to be shown. My text fields are pretty short so they didn't have to be wrapped around. I did change the font I have for my title is Roboto at 18. The table color I chose to have a little yellow. The labels I wanted to have a little bit bigger font, so I did change this to 18. If you scroll down more, you're going to see some options where you can get rid of the numbering for the rows and other things. So scroll down here and see if there's anything else you'd like to change to make this table look the way you want. Now, before I talk about adding a table for grade, look back at my gender table. You're going to notice one of the options I chose is to put a border around the table, and I made the border orange. I just thought it'd be kind of cool that way. Now, I'm going to go in and add a second table. I want to see what our data looks like by a grade. So I'm going to go back to the table option and drag a new box, and this is what I have. Now, again, what you're going to find is the dimension here is probably going to be defaulted to gender. So to click it and change it, either click on here and you'll get a drop-down box so you can pick something else, or just drop and drag the grade over there. For mine, I just clicked on the current one and changed it to what I wanted it to be. The metric wasn't there at hours, so I did drop hours down into the metric. And then you're going to want to go and probably look at the style of that too. You're going to notice the style changes I did make. I got rid of the row numbering, I got rid of the record count, I put a green box around this one, changed some of the fonts, and so forth. The third table I do want you to have is the total by zip code. So again, drop into the box for the table, drop your box down, and let's go and format it. I want to get rid of the row numbers myself. You may want them there. Again, I don't want it to say that it's, this says 1 through 9. Maybe I do want this feature. It's up to you. You can kind of play around with this and see how it works. If you want to see how this looks in the real view, we're in edit mode. What you would do is you would click on view and you would actually see how this box is going to operate since it's only showing 5 records of the 9. Now do make sure to go in the dimension this time. For me, I'm choosing zip code, so I can click on it, change it to zip code, drop hours down into the metric since that's the numerical field we have. Now for this one, I did choose to make it look like the others. I made the box and I drug it down longer so to show all 9 records instead of having it be a field where I would kind of click on it and have it dragged down. I changed the font, I did a red box, and just kind of made it look a little bit more like the ones above. Now, the second thing I want to show you is called the scorecard, and it's to the right of the globe here. It says 2.1. What it does is it's going to be one box, and it's going to show you the total of all of your data somewhere. Here's what I know. The total of my gender table, the total of the by grade, and the total by zip code, all 3 of these tables total the same amount because it's the same data, just sliced a different way. Now a scorecard, I'm going to click on that, and I'm actually going to drop a box right here. And I want it just to tell me the running total of all the data that I see in these tables. Now, when you do that, notice what it said for me. A configuration is incomplete. Look over at the right. If you look at it, the metric says invalid metric. Well, there isn't one there. So take the hours, which is my numerical field, and drop it in there, and then it will actually know what to calculate. Right now, it doesn't know what to calculate, so it can't do it. After I did that adjustment, you're going to see it's there, and you are going to see now that there's a total. So this totals up to 230.8 hours in each of the 3 separate tables. You can go ahead, you can move this around on the piece of paper, you can change the font size, you can change the locations of this. What you would do is click over into style and you can play around. You can color the background, you can center the numbers, you can change the font. And I did do that for this one, and ultimately this is what I chose to do and have it look kind of more popping out of the page so we can see what the total is very easily. And again, notice my title. My title all syncs up with this. This is hours what? It's how many hours do you study each week, because that's the question that I had asked. So we have some really good table information here. I want to show you another feature. I want to add what's called a filter. And what a filter does is it makes your one page, when it's in view mode, interactive. And you can actually filter the data out differently, and it will recalculate totals for you. So here's what we're going to do. Go right here. This is the filter. If you click on that, and then you're going to want to drop and drag. And I'm going to do one for gender. So maybe let's click it next to gender. It's going to show something like this. Not the prettiest looking box. Now look over here of what they want to do. It says here the dimension is gender. Do I want a metric there? What I can do is actually drop down there the hours, so put the hours in for my metric. Now, I notice here this box says show values. It normally defaults to being checked. So what it would do is when I go into view mode, it would show the genders and the total values. But I already have that right here. So I'm going to actually click that off. I'm just going to use this filter button to literally filter out my data, not to give me answers. So keep that unclicked for that box. You also can go over to Style and play around with that button. In some of the options under Style, you can't see it right here. They're going to ask you if you want to have like a drop-down box or things of that nature. So you can play with the different choices on that. Now to see how this actually works, in order for the filter to work, you must view it. So click your view. And when you click the view, what it's going to show you is just gender here as a text box. So for mine, if I click it down, right now it's showing males and females. This total here and these totals here are for all males and females. You can click and select which ones you want. And you're going to see here, it says that I picked one gender, and if you can tell, it's just the males. Notice how this total cumulative number actually just changed to be just of the males. This right here is what's interesting. The grade data is actually just for the males now, so it automatically changed it and recalculated it for me. Now I can do the same thing. I can add another filter. So if you click on the filter and drop a box, I'm going to position this one by grade because I want it to filter by grade. I'm going to come over here, change my dimension to grade by clicking on it, do my metric as hours. I'm then going to click over to Style. Now here's where you can see the style options. Right here, you're going to see that this looks like a checkbox automatically versus the gender one is a drop-down box. So what I did is a few things. I unchecked Enable Search Box. I don't need a little search box here to type in a grade. There's 3 grades. You can show me all of them. I don't need a search option. A single selection, this is just having the single selection showing and having the expandability. So do you want it to expand? The expansion is like a drop-down box. So you can click on these depending on how you want the feature to work. I didn't want to have this drop down and have it show. I actually wanted the features to show automatically. So I unclicked for expandable and single selection. Now let's see what this looks like. Click on the view button up here. When you do that, you're going to see this. Remember gender, I didn't have that single option, so this technically if I want to filter by gender, I could. I would have to click this and look at the gender and select it. This is if it doesn't actually have that single drop down. I'm going to choose to unselect the 12th graders. So this data now no longer has the 12th graders in it. Here's the new total. This is by gender with no 12th graders. You're going to notice the 12th graders are gone and they're no longer in the zip code. Let's add the third filter for the zip code. So go into filter, let's drop our box. We're going to change the dimension to zip code, the metric to hours. And then you can go ahead and look at your style for this one. The style for this one, because there are 9 zip codes, I did make it a drop-down box like I initially had for gender. But you're going to notice I decided I'm going to go back for gender and just have it show my 2 options. For grade, show my 3 options. But for zip code, I do want the drop-down box. I don't want to show them all. So I chose that option instead under Style. And then let's click View. When you click View, what I decided to do is I put the zip code drop down right above the box. So when you click on it, you can go ahead and choose the various zip codes you want or don't want in your data set. And then it'll change and recalculate your totals for you. So after making that adjustment, what you're going to see here is I did filter on the zip codes, and you're going to notice the changes here on the zip code totals, and then everything else took that zip code out that I didn't want, but I kept all the genders and the grades there. I just took out various home zip codes. And you will see that the drop-down box here, how that would work, you could click on it and you could select that way. Now another thing on this slide I want to highlight is to show you when you are in your view mode, as we are now, you actually have some more functionalities for sorting. You can actually click on like gender or hours and it will sort accordingly. Now for this table, I wanted it to sort by hours in descending order. So I clicked on hours until it showed me that there was actually an up arrow on here, which you can't see on my table. So it's going from lowest to highest. Now on the table for the grades, I actually clicked on grade. You can see it's pointed downward. It's going in descending order. So it's going from the highest grade to the lowest. For zip code table, I clicked on hours and I clicked enough times to have it go in descending order. So it's going to put the totals from highest to lowest on here. You can change it however you want to. If you want the zip code to go from smallest to largest, just click on this again and it will change the order here. You could click on zip code and have it order by zip code number. There's lots of different choices in terms of how you want to sort it. Just click on this worksheet because when you're in the view mode, it's interactive. But when you're in the edit mode, if you were to click on here and edit, you actually can't make those adjustments until you view it. Now, the other thing I want us to do, besides looking at sums, is we need to look at some of the other statistics from our chapter, like averages, mins, and maxes. So how can we add those features to our current table to get more rich tables and more data in here? So let me show you. So now our goal is to add new different fields to our table of data here. In statistics, we've been looking at average, median, IQR, standard deviation, range, and things of that nature. So if you look over here to the right, you're going to see the fields that are available. What we want to do is take a field here and actually make it another metric. We want to have lots more metrics other than just hours, but we don't have any, so we can create them using formulas. What you're going to want to do is click on Create a New Field. When you do that, it's going to bring you to this area here. It's going to ask you for first thing, what do you want to call it? Let's do the average hours. So I'm going to do average hours. And actually all you need to do is just do AVG or the word average. I wouldn't put the word hours in there because it's going to be redundant in our table when we ultimately put it together. Keep this field ID. It's their unique field ID. Now we can write a formula and I can help you come up and find these formulas, but they're not too hard to find. If you do click on this little question mark, it'll show you different formulas to type. There's one for average. All you type for average is do AVG, and in the parentheses you want the average of what? You can either drop in there the word hours from over here. You can drag the word hours, or you can type the word hours. Then all you need to do is hit save. What that'll do over here now is create a new field called average hours, or again, I would just put average. Let's think about some other ones. I've already created another one for maximum hours. Again, I would just call it maximum. Let me show you how I did it using minimum. So let's call it minimum hours. So just do MIN. Keep the field ID. For minimum, it's just MIN, and then parentheses, you want the minimum of what is the hours. And you would hit create or update. Now let's look at maximum. It's just what you would think. Again, I'm going to put just MAX up here instead of maximum hours like I originally did. Just do max, keep the ID, and it's MAX of the hours, and you're going to hit create on that one. Now another field I would like is for range. Remember, to compute range, it's just max minus min, so we already have that. What we can do is we could go in here and we could just say max of the hours minus the min of the hours. So I'm kind of putting together two of the little formulas, but in doing so, I'm creating the calculation to compute the actual range. If you hit save, it will save that field as range, or in this case, range hours. At any point in time on here, you can actually click this All Fields button. When you do that, it's going to bring you to here where you can see the current fields you have. These one in the green are the ones that we initially uploaded in our table of our survey results from our form. And these blue ones are the new ones we've created. Notice it's actually calling them a number, as what we're doing is their calculations. If I want to add more fields, I could actually do it right here, or I could say I'm done. Now, we've been talking quartiles in here with the box plots, so it would be important for us to calculate Q1 and Q3. By the way, we could compute the median. What you would do for median is put median in here. The formula for median is just that, the word median, and then in parentheses you would do hours. So that would give us the 50th percentile for median. Q1 is a little different formula, so just put Q1, don't put the word hours. In here you're going to type the word percentile. And we want the percentile of what field? Hours. And what percentile do we want? The 25th. So put 25 and you hit save, and that'll give us Q1. In a similar fashion, we'd make another field called Q3. We would do a similar formula, but instead of 25, we would put 75 to get the third quartile. Another field we want to calculate is standard deviation. So what standard deviation is the square root of variance. So we do actually have to program variance at some point in time, and I'll show you how to do that one. All you would do is create a new field. I would call it variance. And the formula for variance down here is literally the word variance and then parentheses hours. So to compute standard deviation, there's not a formula for standard deviation in the computer here in Google, but you can compute it from variance. We're just going to say take the square root. The formula for square root is SQRT, and then in parentheses, the variance field that we already computed. And I had called mine variance hours, so I would reference that field, which is right here. Interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, so why don't we just take our Q3 hours that we computed already and subtract Q1 hours from it. That would give us our IQR hours. Again, my recommendation, don't use the word hours. It'll be better for your labels. Then when you're all done with that, if you just click on done, it'll bring us back to our report field. Now, all the newly created fields you're going to see over here added in blue, and you're going to notice they're numeric. Here's what I need to do. In this metric column, I need to add the metrics that I want in my current table. So all I have to do is take one and drop it down in here, making sure I don't override one that's already in there. Or you could click the add the button and actually pull in from a drop down. Now here's an example of what I did to the gender table. I added on here the average, the minimum, the Q1. And I noticed one thing is in the labels, like I said, I didn't like the word hours. So I ultimately ended up going back to all the fields I created and I removed the word hours. So it did come out of the label. So I can help you do that if you're not sure. This is really nice. You can just drop and drag these in the order in which you want them. When you're in this table here, you can actually take the line after each column and you can drag the columns so that they're different sizes if you need to. Another option is if you go into style, if you want to, you could select wrapping the text and it would wrap these titles so that you can read them more easily. That feature for wrapping your text you should be able to find right here again in the style, and look at some of the other features here too and see if you want to make any changes. This here in the style feature within a table will allow you to alternate the colors for the rows. If you have a lot of row data, makes it easier to distinguish one row from another. So I did the same thing actually to the by grade table. I clicked on the table and I added the various columns that I wanted or various fields. Another way to get this second table though, I will tell you, is if you highlight this one in the orange and you do control copy. If you copy this, you can control paste it. It would paste the exact same table again, but this time with gender, so you'd have two gender tables. Well, you could click on that second gender table, and all you need to do is go over here where it would say gender, is you need to drop and drag grade, and it literally would change it to this table for you. Because this table I have boxed in orange and this one in green, I would go back to this one and actually make the border green. But there's lots of different ways to go about doing that. You then could do the same thing for zip code. You could either copy this table and then paste it here, so you'd have a grade and a grade table. Highlight the grade table and just change the grade to the zip code and it would change it for you. It's a really quick way to format it. Or you could just click into the current zip code and you could just add various fields to it that you would want. Now this last slide I'm showing you is you're going to notice something. You're going to notice just the orange boxes. I didn't like the layout of having gender, grade, and zip code all on the same page because I know I need to add graphs pretty soon, and we'll get to that in a bit. So my recommendation is this for you. It is going to be required that you analyze your data by gender and by grade are required. By zip code will be an optional extra credit opportunity for you. What I want is one page for gender and one page for grade. What you can do is you can click up here and you can add a second page. You can add a second page, and what you can do is you can take your current data from page 1 and you can copy and paste it into page 2 and just change it from gender to grade. Or you can create your brand new tables yourself. Notice I did decide to break these tables into two. So up here for gender, I have it broken out into kind of our sectors for analysis. I have the center data, the averages and the median, the spread data, the range, IQR, and standard deviation. And then for the shape, we're going to have to look at histograms yet, and that'll be in our next video. But down here, don't forget we did our outlier test. So I have all of the information for the 5-number summary that's just used to create our box plots, which we'll do in our next video. But I also computed 2 other variables. I created an outlier test for the low end and an outlier test for the high end. It did this for me automatically. Think about adding a variable, and how do you do the test for the low end? Write that little formula. It's just Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. The high end is Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So you can add these other requirements to it. Now I'm not showing you, I do have a second slide where it's the same data, but it is all by grade, and my boxes are red. And I have a third slide for the zip code because I plan on doing the zip code extra optional activity of analyzing it also by zip code. This ends the information about analyzing the data and getting the tables and statistics. Next time we will talk about how do we add the graphs to this.